Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning meditation. I'm the Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III, here to share these messages that we hope will inspire you and encourage you in the hours, the days, the weeks, and the months ahead. Today's morning meditation is entitled, It's All Good. And I am glad to be able to share this message. I hope at the conclusion of this message, you'll always find some jewel, something that will help you along the way, that you'll be not only willing to take in, but also to share with someone else along the way. So here it is. I want to talk about it's all good. And I think in this context in which we are in, it's important for me to share that I don't always feel like it's all good. The term or the colloquial statement that it's all good often comes as a response to what is happening around us. To take all the conclusions of all the things that have happened around us, a cacophony of all the voices, all the challenges that we see, what we have discovered along the way is that this statement puts it all in a bucket when we don't understand it, or we are not able to handle it, or whether or not we feel like dealing with it. We simply say, it's all good. But how do you determine, how do you say and declare that it's all good when we always are aware that there's trouble, there's trials, there are difficulties all around? It can't be all good in the climate where we are now, in which we are reminded of the tragedy of 9/11. It can't be all good when we are aware of what's happening overseas in Gaza and all of the tragedy happening there, or what's happening in the Ukraine, or what's happening in our very own country, in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. It can't be all good in Athens, Tennessee, where a senseless death and a burning of a church took place. It can't be all good in our own schools, where we discover that another mass shooting has taken place. It can't be all good when we discover that in this climate that is as tense as it is politically, emotionally, spiritually, even in our own families, we are going through the upheavals of roller coaster life. Knowing that some days we're up and some days we're down, some days we feel like we have a grip on life, and sometimes we feel like it's slipping through our fingers. In these moments, it's really difficult to make a blanket statement and a declaration that it's all good. And when we find ourselves in places of trouble, it is not always all good when we're in trouble. It's not always all good when we're in transitions in our lives. It's not always all good when we wish we were on time and in time, but we discover that we are more likely to be out of time. How do you reconcile those challenges that we face with a statement that it's all good? Well, I wanted to share with you not just a statement about how rough things are, how bad things are, or even to tear down the concept or the thought that it's all good. What I'd like to do is to be able to give some statements that I think are important. There are some scriptures that I would like to hand to you. One, Psalm 46, and the other is one that comes from the book, Paul's letter to the Romans. Psalm 46 says something like this. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in a time of trouble. Paul's writings to the church at Rome around the 10th verse, the 8th verse, rather, 8th chapter, rather, sorry about that, that reminds us that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to God's purpose. How can this be in a climate in which we see the challenge, the tug of war between having faith and dealing with the realities of our lives? How do we deal with the ups and the downs, the theories and the theology, the idea of the realities and the realism that we face every day? It is important for us to get our hands completely around this so that we can be able to have hope to share inspiring words and encouragement, not only to ourselves, but to others as we're trying to survive the climate we're in. Well, I'm glad you all asked that question. It's an old preacher device. We say, I'm glad you asked, even though you didn't ask. But I want to share this with you. I think it's important, and I think it will inspire us as we travel through the course of the days, the weeks, and the months ahead. Here's what I've come to the conclusion, that sometimes it's not all good, but I think it is all God. I know. I think it's important to know that if you lose an O, then you learn how to put God in the center of every challenge and every problem. For instance, that when I'm in trouble, it is not so much about it being all good, but it's all God, that God somehow gets in the trouble with me. It is important to know that we're not alone as we're trying to lift the challenges, deal with the difficulties, go through the ups and downs, deal with the disappointment, hurt some, heal some, be encouraged, sometimes to feel ourselves needing that encouragement as we journey along the way. The good thing is that God reminds us, and our friends remind us, and creation reminds us that God is faithful in the mix of all of the makings of our lives, that even stormy days don't last always, and even difficult moments are not always permanent. And even as we find ourselves in life, on the decline of life, or our families are starting to fade away, we've lost some loved ones, we have lost a job, we have lost a relationship, we are struggling with how to pay the bills, we're trying to figure out what's going to happen, where's my help coming from, who's there to listen to me, am I alone in this world? The message to you is that no, you're not alone, that God, your creator, always reminds us that it's right there in the middle of your trouble, right there in the middle of your transition, and right there, not just in time or around the time, and just not there when you're thinking you're out of time, but God takes on the persona of being time. In other words, always on time. It's kind of like your heartbeat, as Gregory Porter would say. Listen to the beating of your heart. It's always on time. It knows the rhythm it should have as we are journeying through life on time. Maybe out of time, maybe moving fast, maybe moving slow, maybe beating out of control, maybe skipping a beat, but it's always on its own time. And as we are living this life, we have learned that some things are better not on our time or anyone else's time, but always in God's time. I'm grateful for the privilege of being able to share kind of how timing works. So let me give that to you. I can say it's all good because even though circumstances are not good all the time, even though the conditions of life are not good, even though the community is not good, even though our environment is not good, and even though our friendships and our relationships are not always at their peak, what I've discovered is that when you look at it differently and look at it closely, those things, when God is in it, have a different texture to them. My friendships are now not something that are owed to me or I'm entitled to, but something that I should value and cherish because they don't always come around. My family are not really my family. They are gifts to me to be able to enjoy as I journey through life along the way. They will not be permanent, nor will they always stay, but I get a chance to cherish them day by day. It's kind of like the way that prayer we pray, the Our Father prayer, for those who might call it that. It says something about give us this day our daily bread. It is an appreciation that we are not entitled to tomorrow, and we're not really gifted with knowing what's going to happen in the next hour of the next day. What we do get is this moment right now that we get to enjoy and embrace. Now, what a tragedy it would be not to enjoy the moment that you're in, to embrace the people that you're with, and to be able to know that this moment in time was not an accident, but it was a gift. To be able to know how to be on time and in time, and to know that in the moments that we have, that it should be all good because this is a privilege that we may not have deserved. Well, some of us may think we do, but think about it. There are others who are smarter, faster, more brilliant, and dare I say, sometimes better looking, that don't get the privilege of being around forever. This week, we learned of the passing of many great people. One of them happens to be James Earl Jones, one of my favorite people in the world to be able to watch, favorite entertainers, favorite actors, and favorite leader. His representation on film and in voice has been the shaping of our generation. We have found him to be the voice of Darth Vader. Even though his face could not be seen, his voice was always heard. We found him to be the voice of the great king Mufasa, who had to give guidance to his son Simba. We found him to be the voice of the man who would be the love of Claudine's life in that wonderful movie, Claudine, who took on the responsibility of caring for a single mother with many children and stood up at a time when others thought African American men could not stand up and care for and love a family. It was James Earl Jones who reminded us in Fences that it's okay for you to say something to your sons and your family, to be the kind of leader to remind them that duty is almost important as being liked, more important than being liked and but being loved. It was James Earl Jones that reminded us that what it is that you do as an actor translates to who you are as a human being. So choose wisely. In his life, he reminded us that timing is everything, that every role is not meant for you, and every relationship is not meant for you, and every right that you can exercise may not be the right time to exercise it. But if it's in good timing, and if it is God who is with you in your transitions in life, and if it is God indeed there with you in the moments of your trouble, you too might meet your field of dreams, a place where you can find and discover peace along the journey. So I'm encouraging you, like I encourage many others, to be able to embrace the idea that it is all good. In other words, the term is a reminder for us to have gratitude in the face of trouble, in the face of transitions, in the face of trials, and in the face of moments when it looks like we're out of time. But when you discover how to have joy and to be a one who determines to be blessed no matter what, you'll discover that God was in those moments bringing you through. So take a walk down memory lane, if you will. Reflect on your own life. Reflect on the days when you think life was not fair and the moments when challenges were more than you had the energy to meet. What you will discover is there are always this unseen force and sometimes very visible force that always carried you through and brought you to the moment you're in. So as you're facing your new troubles, as you face your new trials, as you face your new transitions, be aware that you have a companion that can help you through it. The one who created you, the one who knows you, the one who loves you, the one who supports you even in your most difficult moments in life will be right there with you as he's always been. So I'm encouraging you, as whatever it is you may face and however you may journey along the way, trust in the journey that it's all good. Well, my friends, that's the message for the morning and for the week. Our morning meditations, we hope, meet you at the moments in which you need it the most. We want you to know you are important to us. Why? Because you're loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. You're special indeed. Let's live out the glory of our days and the moments in which we've been given. Guess what? It's all good. Have a great one. Take care. Bye bye.